Hello everyone, welcome to the 30 Minutes with Servoy Developer Series. I'm Sean Devlin. We are extra lucky because we typically do this every 2 weeks, but we just did one a week ago and now we're back again with another topic. This is because we have had something working in the Servoy labs, and it's important to Servoy and important to our customers, which is why we've invited our CEO, Ron Vanderberg, to speak about it. Before I turn it over to Ron, I just want to remind everyone that number one, this webinar is recorded, so if you like it so much that you want to watch it twice, we will record it and post it to our website. Also, please, we encourage you to put feedback and questions in the questions panel in your GoToMeeting console, and we will leave some room at the end of the webinar to deal with those. Ron, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Sean, for the intro. Yeah, good. Can you see my screen?
I can. I see the.
Great.
Is that you smoking the cigar?
I will after this webinar.
Okay.
So thanks. Yeah, welcome everybody. Like Sean said, we've been working hard on new features, new things. We talked a little bit about it at Servoy World, and now we're ready to show it more and more to the world, and really launch this thing. Let me go to the next slide. Yeah, maybe to start off a little bit, a question to most of the audience who probably are familiar with questions like this. Thanks for the new feature, but you need to introduce new bugs. Don't you guys do regression testing? Yeah, we upgraded to a newer version of the application and suddenly things stop working. It's a pretty common question, I guess. And although people try to test as good as they can, it's really difficult to get that quality in place. We see out there problems which happen through various reasons. Introduction of new features lead to new bugs. Taking tests or running tests, the manual tests take a lot of time. And often tests are actually run by customers. So typically when your customers give a lot of feedback about bugs, they're basically testing for you. And you probably try to avoid that. And that's not really the way to do things, because it really leads to a bad experience. And why do we think that continuous delivery is really, really important? And for those of you who know what continuous delivery is, of course, it's delivering the software in a constant flow to your customers. Your customers want new features fast. I presume your sales guys are out there selling new great things, either the standard application typically, but also typically there's a lot of questions from customers who want new features and they want them fast. They don't want to wait. Why can't you add that simple stuff tomorrow? Software vendors want to release their new features really fast. On the other hand, new kinds of versions of components in the total stack come out really, really fast. New versions of a browser, plugins, Java, those come out really fast. Security breaches, they really happen fast, or when you find them, there's a lot of pressure on releasing new stuff fast. On the other hand, we see that the release cycles of ISVs are slow, mainly due to things like testing, and that's a lot of work. And even if you release to your customers, the upgrade cycles of your customers go slow. Before they really adapt your new versions, that takes a while. Now, you're not alone out there. If you think, hey, I would love to start implementing new ways of working, 80% or even higher of mid-sized ISVs do not do automated QA, do not do automated quality assurance, unit testing or end-to-end testing. Only a small percentage do continuous build. Continuous build means building daily or weekly automated from your source. And only also a small percentage of ISVs are doing automated end-to-end testing. a typical release cycle of large size ERP applications are 12 to 18 months still today. Now, we also see things in the industry changing rapidly. Google releases stuff every day. Sometimes we don't even see it. If you run Chrome, that's an example we often use, we typically don't even see that it was upgraded. Hey, and the question is, what does that mean for complex apps?
Ron, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have a question, and maybe it's a bit unfair, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, where's Servoy? What's our release cycle? Because you know, yeah, we're not releasing to the public every day, are we?
Well, actually we do. If you look at our sprint cycles, those are every 3 weeks. And if you look at our release cycle, which we call our nightly builds, we do release to the public. But of course, they have a different footprint in terms of quality assurance. We release those actually every day, or even more often a day. We have a continuous delivery pipeline going in, and we do have some customers that run their tests against those daily or nightly builds. And that's maybe also a nice spin-off of what we're going to show here today, is that in this pipeline that we're building, you can work together with us in doing your automated tests. So yeah, that's a fair but unfair question. But yeah, the official releases, I think we do now every 6 weeks, typically. But we do release to the public every day, and we have customers who tap into that. That's public.
Well, maybe for example, I hear from a customer that they had a Servoy bug, they filed a case, it's fixed in the next release of Servoy, and then that release comes out, and then they don't upgrade. They don't have a testing server that they do newer releases of Servoy with, and so then they're waiting to a good time for them to upgrade, maybe a few more weeks. And then they upgrade and they find the bug is 90% fixed, but there were some other issues, so they go and they reopen the case, and then they wait for the next cycle again, and then it repeats. Are you saying that there's a way to sort of short circuit that?
Yeah, totally. That's actually one of the main reasons why we try to go into this continuous release cycle mode, not just for our customers, but also ourselves, and actually together. If there was a world where that bug fix could be tested immediately after we fix it without human intervention, without the cost of going through the full release cycle or full test cycle of our customers, then we would have found together, let's say, the issue, and we could have fixed it within that same sprint. And that's what the infrastructure we're making and showing today makes that totally possible. So yeah, we really try to tighten everything together, because we're, by the end of the day, together in the stack, if you can mention it that way.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So what do we want to bring you? We want to, of course, bring you increased competitiveness. We want to keep you competitive by really bringing you really rapid release cycles at a low cost. And it's always been our mission. It's always been our mission to enable you and to enable our customers to develop software in a really rapid way. So not to have to worry about all kinds of underlying technologies, and to keep track of that, and to maintain all that, and to keep that all tied together. And this whole technology stack, which is not about the user experience, and it's not about the features which you build, and to really actually enable our customers to really focus on the user experience and the feature set that they're delivering to customers. And don't have to worry about infrastructure and cloud and all that technology that comes with it. And so what we're doing here today is really in line with that. So what is the QAPaaS? QA stands for quality assurance, and PaaS stands for platform as a service. And we want to enable our customers to really start being in control of the quality of what they deliver to their customers. And it basically is a complete tested and proven stack for you to implement continuous integration. With that comes into continuous testing, and eventually also continued deployment to a production environment. Now, if we then look back to what is needed, what are the almost building blocks, high level, to do that? Of course, there needs to be some kind of infrastructure. And By the end of the day, this is servers which do things. So you need infrastructure. You need a test stack, a stack of software which does this test for you. Of course, you need continuous integration delivery tools, test scripts. You need to write those. I'll tell you a little bit about that on how we think we can help our customers make those scripts in a way more productive way than most technologies out there. Of course, you want some visualization dashboard to tie things together because that gives you control and visibility. And of course, we need to integrate all those technologies and not just integrate them, but also make something which is maintainable for future. So if new versions of, for instance, Jenkins come out in the future, we need to make sure that that's future-proof, and the stack that we deliver to customers is going to stay future-proof. And what we did basically is we heard that question a lot from our customers. So we worked together with a couple of our customers in an alpha stage and developed what we show here today together with them. And actually today is the launch to really invite customers to work together with us in a beta program to enhance this and make it probably more complete, because the set of customers we work with together only show a certain set of features which are required. And now we go into beta and try to make that set of customers a little bit bigger. So again, what are the building blocks? Let me zoom in a little bit. So of course, in the front end, you need something which is unified, like dashboards and stuff like that. We put in a case management system because by the end of the day, if people don't have their own case management system, if a test fails, that test needs to be injected to a system where it ends up as a task for somebody to look at it. But of course, if somebody has their own case management system, that's fine. Things like source repository, version management, where you really talk about what pieces of the full stack end up in what version. So this infrastructure is not only to talk about what version is there in your solution or WAR file, but it's about every piece of the puzzle which goes into a version. For instance, a version of Tomcat or even Java. And of course, you need a build engine, something that really does the build jobs. You need a stack to do the testing. Now, you know that we have unit testing into our environment already, but we build something which makes it possible to do easier end-to-end tests. Some preliminary performance tests, of course, user acceptance testing. You need a control environment where you can say what version goes where. So for instance, if you want your demo environment or your acceptance environment to have a certain version of your stack, you need to control that. And eventually you need to deploy. I'll tell you something about the eventual deployment, but we have a lot of stuff there in place, which we will eventually also release to the public.
Hey, Ron, sorry to interrupt you again, but I mean, I see some of our customers with really talented technology people using Jenkins and even sometimes Selenium for the UI testing, Jenkins for the build management. I mean, these are all open source tools that are freely available, and I think we deal with a lot of talented people. Why isn't this something that our customers could just build and maintain on their own? Or you don't think they can do it, or what's the?
No, I think they can do it, because by the end of the day, we also use a lot of open source technologies, but almost the same as we use a lot of open source technologies in Servoy itself. You know, it's not a secret that we use Hibernate for data binding to the database. But the reason for us to bring this all together and to deliver it as a very free service out of the cloud, because we think that it's a lot of technology, and we see customers struggling with it, not just struggling with it technically, because technically people can learn it. We have, like you said, a lot of talented people at our customers. But why would you invest time and resources into building all this stuff, which your, let's say, next door neighbor in Servoy also needs? And we see a lot of customers, mid-size ISVs, not having the time or resources to put the effort into to build something like this. On the other hand, the need for it is growing and growing. So that's why, together with a couple of customers, we stepped into this to bring that all together. And I think we're the feature that we have is pretty feature rich already. And one of the things, for instance, which I don't see a lot today with customers is, of course, customers can install Jenkins and build a WAR file. And that's pretty easy. But to make a unit testing and do the unit testing, or so the end-to-end testing and do the end-to-end testing in every OS and every browser combination, or if you look at the resource management, how you can deploy this using Kubernetes and Docker and make it scale and make it fail over and make it zero downtime upgrades. You keep on adding dimensions and dimensions and dimensions, and not even talking about maintaining it and making it future-proof, so that if a new version of Docker comes out or Kubernetes, how are you going to make sure that also trickles down into your pipeline and the tools you use? So that's why we stepped into this and work together with customers. Okay. What we see typical at mid-size ISV still happening a lot today, and I know a lot of customers say, yeah, we don't do this, but we still see it a lot. That of course most ISVs have some kind of case issue management. A lot of them use Jira. Some of them use our Jira. I don't see a lot more in a lot of companies who just work from their workspace. Most of them use a source repository, but a lot of them still generate a WAR file from the IDE or just a solution file and deploy it. There's a lot of building blocks missing, which are eventually needed to pump up the quality and in production deliver things like scaling and availability, and something which I rarely see is things like solid log management and monitoring, for instance. So a couple of mock-ups and screenshots of things that are available. Is of course you need a dashboard where you log in, where you should see an overview of things which are happening in the pipeline. If you look at source management, we offer Git and SVN in the pipeline, so people can choose. And what I'm seeing here is that we are trying to bring everything together in a unified front end. We put in case management, where you manage your stories and features and bugs and tasks, and run all that.
Ron, for the case management, is that built in, or we have a lot of customers already using Jira or Fogbugs or whatever?
Well, it's built in because for those customers who don't have anything, we need something where certain things like tasks will land. But if people have their own, that's fine. Okay. You can bring your own, yeah. We can integrate. Things like version management, like I said, what version contains what needs to be in. Monitoring about building and testing. So here you see the typical builds and what the results of a build. Code quality measurement, so to measure what quality of the JavaScript is in your code base. We use things like JSLint and stuff like that. Solid log management, which needs really deep management into logging of not only Servoy, but Java and Tomcat and all the building blocks which are in the total stack. And the same goes for monitoring, deep monitoring. Here we only show usage of CPU and memory in a certain container. But using JMix, for instance, we can look deeper into the Servoy engine, or can look deeper into memory use of Tomcat or Java. And monitoring is already available in the QAPaaS, so we can, for instance, in an acceptance environment, see it, and will eventually, of course, be also available in production. Scaling is the same thing. So if you look at what this QAPaaS infrastructure looks like, I talked a little bit about to make this future-proof. The QAPaaS itself, so our platform, of course, also runs through a build, test, accept, and deployment environment. And that is to keep it future-proof. So, of course, our customers are in the QAPaaS in our deployed environment, so live production, but we have a build, test, and acceptance environment running for the same.
So, Ron, what do you do when there's a new Jenkins that has a build that has a security patch or something like that?
Then we would run it first, of course, from source. We will configure a new version of Jenkins, and then we will run it through our build, test, and acceptance environment. In our acceptance environment, we can see whether that would break anything, so that our test will run there.
So you're saying that you QA the QA kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a compiler almost, yes.
Right.
And we have been pretty successful already in doing this. For instance, all our consultants run their own pipelines for their projects. And so we've been able to take out things there and continuously upgrade our pipeline. So our consultants, of course, run a production environment. And in the meantime, the guys who are building this QAPaaS are upgrading stuff to newer versions. And sometimes, of course, also add features. So if we deploy this to our customers, so in this case, a tenant is an ISV, then those run in 100% separated silos. They don't touch each other. The only thing which is controlling the total, let's say, environments is, of course, our cloud environment, which provisions basically what we call namespaces for each ISV. So they can touch each other. They're in completely separate environments. Today, our stuff runs on Amazon, AWS, but we could potentially switch in the future to something else if needed. There's a lot of stuff talked about infrastructure, which we think we can bring to our customers really easy and easy to step into. A big other, I'll say almost hurdle is you can have this, but without test scripts, which test the functionality, it's useless. So the test scripts still need to be written. And there's actually two types of test scripts available. The unit test, JSUnit, which is already built into Servoy, and some of you use. I would say downside of that is that your application logic needs to be highly separated. You really need units. So there's sometimes a hurdle for customers who start using that. And for end-to-end test, to start doing that, that typically requires a lot of low-level technical scripts. People use Selenium and Protector and all kinds of technologies. And not only are those low level, but they are typically also fairly fragile. So what we added is a Servoy Rapid Application Development, behavior-driven development test. It's a little bit into, people know what a unit test is, I presume, which has been in Servoy for 8 years, I think. Like I said, not a lot of customers use this, but because they need a high separation. But what we added, so I'm not going into detail what it takes in terms of scripting to write low-level Selenium or Protector scripts. But what we added is a rapid application development end-to-end test script. And what that basically does is describes really high level the user flow through an application. And so in this case, this is really picked from a live running end-to-end test, which we have. You describe that you need to go to a certain URL, in this case, our demo application. And you click on the navigation tab, and then you click on a filtering tab, and then you click on the date picker, and you select a certain date. You go to another list field, and you click an end date, and also select the date. So this is the high-level language. There's no real technology involved. You need to know a little bit about what the name of components is. So here it says, like for instance, gallery main.nav, which is the name of a component. Now I can show you a short movie of what that looks like. Is it running? Yeah, it's running. So basically we run here this script which I just showed, and what that does, and of course we show here now in a real UI mode, it brings up our demo gallery, and it really runs through all these tests, basically clicking and scrolling and doing user interactions through an application and asserting at certain points whether certain values are what they should be. So as you see, it's also possible to do that with pretty complex controls, like a calendar picker or table views, and it makes it way easy to write these end-to-end test scripts. And with end-to-end, I don't think I explained that. It means basically two things. End-to-end for us means end-to-end the full stack. So you test from database to the user interaction in the browser. You also test end-to-end from a user scenario. So somebody logs in, navigates to a certain form, edits a certain field, and checks whether the value in a certain field is correct. So I think the test succeeded. So you see everything green. And of course, this is showing the code running. But in the QAPaaS, you see a lot more high-level reporting on this. So this is a view of a screen which shows the end result. In this case, it's the test in the calendar component, and you see that everything passed. And of course, when things fail, you can even show screenshots, and we show screenshots or even videos of where it failed. So the people who get the task assigned to fix it, they can figure out, hey, it went wrong in this screen, this and this was the context, and I need to look at it. So what's that unique about? It's really rapid application development. It hides almost all of the underlying technologies, generalizes that. What we can do is we can run this in a grid. Typically with tests, during the running of a test, it requires a lot of horsepower almost. So we can run it in a grid. So because what you mimic is a browser really interacting with the server on which the system and the test runs. We can do it with multiple operating systems and browsers, and also combinations of that. We do performance testing during measurements. So you can compare what it took to browse from one screen to another to run a certain feature in your application, and compare that between tests and to see if then things start failing, for instance, or things become a lot slower. What's really nice also, and that's not only about end-to-end tests, but about the whole stack, we can test against multiple versions of Servoy, and we can even test against Servoy nightly builds. So what does it mean? Eventually we go to deployment, and there's a story because we do run this internally, but we don't give this to customers yet. We want more experience with it, and I think it will take some time to understand what it takes to get our customers in production on this. I think eventually it would be nice to be able to help customers also not invest and having to invest time and resources into setting this up. It's about things like failover, auto-scaling, and zero downtime upgrades. With the last, I mean that you can upgrade to a new version of your solution or anything in the underlying stack without people having to log out, and being automatically new sessions point to the new version. And when everybody's out of the old version, then people are those are automatically put down. What we're also working is deployment not just on cloud, but also on-premise. We still have a lot of customers who have the requirement to deploy this stuff on-premise, for instance, in healthcare or government, where cloud is still not fully accepted. And we have already architected and are working with one customer on to see how we can do that. I think in short, for those of you who think, hey, this is really valuable stuff, you can start today. You don't have to wait. We will not charge any upfront cost. There's just a pay-as-you-go model. And like I said, the hurdle to start writing test scripts, we have lowered to the lowest possible threshold, because writing test scripts is really simple. We have all the people in place who can train and help you on this, or even maybe write the first 10 or 20 test scripts, and then you can start running them immediately, continuously, against your code or even against future versions of Servoy. Like I said, we're inviting customers to join our beta. We're live with a couple of customers in alpha, and we would like to make that set of people bigger to get more experience together, and not just experience, but to really understand what the features are that they require and that really add value. So maybe if there's time left, Sean.
Yeah, well,
we have some questions.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have
Ron.
questions?
I have to, well, I just interrupt you with my questions. I don't wait to the end.
Okay.
No, I have to admit, when I saw the your slide deck, I thought there's no way this is going to be 30 minutes, but you pulled it off, so great job.
I'm fast. I'm too fast to talker, sorry.
So we do have a few questions. I think some of them you have answered along the way, but I'll restate them anyway. Can I test my source on a specific version of Servoy? And we saw in one of the last slides that the answer is yes, you can pick a version, and you can even do the nightly snapshot. So that's ideal for if you're running an older version, but you're still upgrading behind a bit, then you can still test on a specific version. I think you answered this next question, but what happens when a test fails?
When a test fails, we will inject it into the case system as a task for somebody in the team to pick up. And of course, you need to figure out whether that's a false or a negative positive. So if that's something which you broke in your solution, or it broke somewhere due to what we did. Today, our customers are responsible to investigate that themselves. It's also in the way we deploy Servoy today. And maybe we have to look in the future whether we can provide some kind of service where we can do that together. I don't know yet. But we have to, that's one of the things which I would like to find out together with customers. And okay. That's I think a normal thing we expected, because we want to tighten up the whole stack together. Because together, so Servoy and the solution, we deliver something that the whole stack is the quality, and that's just one part of it. And that's why I think this is for everybody really important.
Mm-hmm. One other question was about the test scripts themselves. It is, where do test scripts go? Can they also be versioned? I guess that makes sense.
Yes, they go in the source repository, and they are versioned. And we've also set up a way to set up the tests correctly. So typically, of course, with complex applications, they rely heavily on the database. And we also have tools in place and now best practices on how to set the database in the correct state before the test.
Mm-hmm. So the setup and tear down part.
Yep.
Okay. And then this last, we have one more question here, and I think you answered this already on the second to last slide. Is this something Servoy is hosting, or we download it? Is it for hosting production as well?
So we are hosting this, and I think I mentioned it a little bit in the slides. So we host everything up until the acceptance environment. We're working on production. We run it in a production ourselves, for instance, for our demo sites. But I think today it's not hardened enough, both technical but also legally. So for us to take on the data of your customers on our cloud, that's not an easy thing to overcome, and we need to figure that out also together with customers.